felt it would give us the best access to the strongest possible group of senior insurance decision makers.
InsurTech Insights is a must-do conference, I think, for the network that is built here.
Okay, welcome everybody. I am thrilled today to have both Jen and Raymond with me talking about transformation and innovation. Before we get started, I'm going to have each of them give a little bit of background about their companies and what they have been doing and a little bit about themselves. So Jen, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure, I'll start. So my name is Jennifer King. I am a vice president at Boston Mutual Life Insurance Company out of Boston. I came to Boston Mutual about 5 years ago now, and I have been leading them through a new policy admin implementation. It has been a journey at an insurance company that is 130 years old, and I'm really excited to talk to everybody about that today.
Raymond.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Raymond Perez. I'm a first vice president and general counsel at Antilles Insurance Company. Antilles Insurance was founded in 1968. We're a P&C carrier based in Puerto Rico. My background is in claims, reinsurance, underwriting. I've been 25 years in the industry. And we'll talk about today the core conversion we did at Antilles, doing a full implementation of a new core system.
And don't fool yourselves, while he's general counsel, he's also acts as the COO. So he has a lot of responsibilities.
It's not on the business card.
Exactly. All right. So one of the things we want to talk about is, there's a lot of pressures happening in the insurance industry on both segments, both L&A&H and P&C. And it's kind of created this massive wedge for change. Well, we've had we've wanted to change over the last decade. It's been difficult, but now we're kind of coming into a point where we really do have to transform because the pace of technology, the demographic changes, risk changes are all there. And this requires first that focus on transformation, and then you can really look at optimization, and then really kind of position yourself for innovation. So let's talk about transformation. You each took a different strategy and approach. Describe that strategy and approach, and what were the business drivers? So Raymond, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, in our case, as I said, our company is almost 60 years old. We had in place a legacy system, AS400, COBOL programming, and it ended up being a big enterprise risk for two reasons. One was that legacy system was all custom programming, and we had within it all the functions of the company, including the accounting for our 5 enterprises, underwriting, claims, billing. So it became a big risk, first in the sense that the programmers who had done the program, they had retired. The knowledge didn't trickle down to the programmers that were left. And the other issue we had is that the data, we couldn't get real-time data, so we were pretty much getting autopsy reports whenever we wanted any financial information. So we took the decision to change. In my case, you know that meme that says you say something at a meeting and it becomes your job for 3 years? Well, it kind of happened. I kind of raised my hand that I would take control of the project. Ignorance is bliss, in a way. So I pretty much decided to do everything as well at once, which I'm calling something like a modified Big Bang. So we went ahead and implemented a personal lines policy system, surety policy system, commercial, Majesco system, billing, claims, plus an ERP, Oracle NetSuite for all the accounting issues, plus the intelligent core, which is the data warehouse. So we decided to do everything at once. We started in January 2023. And we went live September 1st, 2023. So in 9 months, we were able to do the full implementation and go live. I'm calling it modified because we didn't migrate any data. So our P&C business, we have 12-month policies. So we decided to do a runoff approach. We started September 1st, 2023, put in new business and renewals into the policy systems. And then when the whole year went by, pretty much everything was native to the system. And we structure our data in the AS400 so we can access the historical data. So that really helped us cut down a bunch in the implementation time.
So by October this year, you'll be fully over there, hopefully.
Actually, September 2024, we went over. So we are a year and a half into the implementation.
All right, so Jen, you've taken an interesting approach. And I think one of the really interesting things is how old your system really is, and if you could kind of share that perspective.
Yeah, for sure. So much like Raymond, technology was getting in the way of our customer experience. You all out here might be surprised to know that we launched our first system back in 1969 when we put somebody on the moon, and we actually have a picture of the 7th president of Boston Mutual pushing the button, and that was the last time we implemented new technology at Boston Mutual. So our tech it's older than I am. And it was really getting in the way of our customer experience, and customers are demanding more today. I know we're a little bit behind in insurance, but COVID really exposed us, and it feels ridiculous for us to be talking about COVID as a catalyst, but we had customers that were just desperately trying to reach us during COVID, and the only way that they could get in contact with us to maintain their policies or get information was to call us on the telephone. We actually had really creative customers who ended up reaching out to us through LinkedIn, trying to get our attention. So, customers' expectations around the ability to go into a portal and self-service, or the ability to go online and make a payment or make real-time changes to their policy, that's real. And we weren't able to react to that. So that was one of the biggest drivers for us is, the age of our technology. In addition, trying to recruit people to work in our customer service department or people to maintain these legacy platforms, there's just no appetite for it. I'm a proud parent of a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old, and they are not working on green screens. So in order to really face that talent gap that's out there, we knew we needed to modernize. In our legacy environment today, we have a minimum of 12 systems that we're asking people to learn. So we've got, mainframe systems, we've got access databases, we've got bolt-ons, we've got things here, there, and everywhere. And the onboarding experience for new employees it takes a really long time to onboard people when they have to master 10 to 12 systems before they can even service a policy. So, the age of the technology, the ability to recruit people was really a key driver. And then last but not least, our ability to adapt to changes. So whether it be regulatory or wanting to launch a new product, the length of time to perform any of those changes in a legacy environment you're looking at a minimum of a year. So none of that is sustainable. None of that allows us to continue to be relevant for the next 130 years. So we knew we needed to do something. And then just last but not least, it's really hard to compete when there are startups out there, right, or there are companies out there that are not straddled with this legacy technology, and our cost to compete, given the number of people that need to support the operation, it was just becoming unsupportable. So I would say that's really kind of what our key drivers were, Denise.
So both of you went through a process to really kind of evaluate the technology and the requirements that you had. And creating this whole new kind of modern technology foundation in the cloud, obviously, from a native cloud standpoint. What were the key attributes that you were looking for, and what were you looking for in a partner that was going to be a big part of the difference from a business perspective? Raymond?
Yeah, a big part of it is the cloud. Having systems in the cloud, we're a smaller company. We don't have a lot of resources to be spending, with servers and such. So to be able to outsource the system was a plus for us. Also, the part about the updates. We had an on-premise system that keeping up to date with the updates was a bit of a pain. So by doing a cloud SaaS solution, it was one of the key drivers. We were also looking for a very efficient claims system. We live in Puerto Rico, is exposed to catastrophes. We had a big one in 2017, so we wanted to make sure that if another one ever hits, knock on wood, that we'll be prepared with an efficient tool where we could create claims quickly, get adequate data for insurers, bordereaux, and such. So those were two key drivers for us.
And you, Jen?
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, we're a life insurance company. We're not a tech company. And it's not in our strategic plan to have technology as a core competency for our company. So when we looked at our strategy, we were really intentional, and we wanted to find a vendor that could partner with us to help give us a platform that would help us get an end-to-end solution. We weren't really interested in implementing another tool into our toolbox, right? So I talked about 10 to 12 systems. There's probably, I think our CIO has told me we have something like 14,000 access databases in addition. So we weren't interested in introducing another tool. What we were really interested in doing was implementing a platform that could get us from the start to the finish. So we looked for a platform that could get us from quote all the way through claim. Again, because technology isn't a core competency of ours, we knew we couldn't go out there and build. That wasn't something we were looking to do, so we needed to find a vendor in the space who was going to be able to give us as much kind of out of the box as we possibly could. And that was really also another important piece of our journey, was that we knew that our ability to pay a claim, our process around paying a claim, or our process around updating somebody's policy, that also wasn't a core competency of ours, right? So we knew that when we were looking to adopt a new platform and we were looking for an end-to-end solution, we also knew we needed to be open to adapting our business process, right? So actually one of Denise's colleagues said, there's no sense of drinking old wine out of a new bottle. So we've really approached this from two angles. Number one, we're implementing a technology platform, but number two, we're also implementing brand new business process so that we can leverage as much as we can out of the box and really limit our customizations. Because as Raymond mentioned, the ability to be on the cloud is a huge selling feature. But if you're on the cloud and you've customized the heck out of your platform, you've kind of lost that advantage, right? So when we were out there and we were looking for a tech platform, we were looking for something that could help us, really get operational efficiency. It could answer the customer demands, as well as help prepare us for future growth and scalability.
Actually, I'm going to divert here just for a second, because you brought something up that I know both of you have taken very much to heart as you've looked at your implementations. You try to take as much out of the box as possible so that you could keep those upgrade processes, and that really what you want to differentiate on are your products and what some of the other things that are really your differentiation. So you want to kind of speak to that not doing all of these customizations that you did in the past.
Yeah,
Raymond?
Sure. Yeah, sure. One of the key points of our project was no customizations. So it wasn't easy. People are used legacy system with legacy processes, and people want to change it. They want the box at the bottom instead of the top. And some things are trivial, some things are important, but at the end of the day, not customizing helps a bunch on the upgrades. You're able to upgrade easier, and at the end of the day, these core providers, they did the research, they put the work in to implement best practices. So we decided we're not going to customize, except for anything that was jurisdiction specific or something we needed to integrate with other system, for example, to integrate with our ERP. It's very tricky to take that approach, and for that you need a clear mandate from the top and support from the top leadership. They cannot divorce from the process. They have to stay in and back the leaders of the project up that if a case is put forth for customization and we decide it's no, then that's ends to be final. Our experience has been, we've been a year and a half since implementation. We have gone back, done some reflection, and the people who were asking for changes, they don't remember that they were asking for it in most of the times. And the other times, it wasn't an issue. Yeah, so it really helped us speed the process. But it could be traumatic if not handled properly.
And Jen, I know it's been your big focus.
It has been my big focus. I think I'm the number one villain actually at Boston Mutual, as I tell them that they can't have that special report that they've had for the past 25 years. But like Denise said, we want to compete on products, and why people choose Boston Mutual isn't because, like I said, about how fast we send them a form in the mail, but it is actually about our products that we sell and about the service and the care that we provide to our customers. So keeping that at the top of mind, being able to adopt in a new process and change, that has really been maybe the most difficult part of this implementation that we've done. It sounds ridiculous, and a lot of my colleagues laughed at me when I first said to them when we started this journey is that the technical implementation here, the implementation of the platform, is going to be hard, but the hardest part of this journey is actually the change management piece and getting people to be okay with doing something different.
Yep. So both of you, for the audience, have implemented Intelligent Core for both P&C and L&A&H. And that's different because it has embedded analytics. And so what that is that now you have access to all of your data from policy billing and claims. You have embedded business intelligence reporting within the workflows. You have embedded AI and machine learning models that Majesco has as a part of that you automatically get. We can integrate with other AI models that are out in the marketplace. But more importantly, it's got Gen AI, Majesco Copilot built in and on every screen throughout the entire solution set. And it's not an add-on. It's really at the foundational level of that. Talk about why that is so important from an operational standpoint. Raymond, I know you've actually, now that you're completely live for some time, you're really getting into it now. And Jen, you got people so excited. Raymond.
Well, at the end of the day, that's the reason we did this conversion. You know, the legacy system was really dragging us down. We couldn't get meaningful data. We couldn't get meaningful connections with modern technology. So at the end of the implementation, the purpose is this. You know, so that's why it needs to be done. Once you show a complete implementation to non-IT folks, they look at it as like, so what does it do? You know, because it's a modern database. We all know it's a huge process, but they don't see exactly what does it do. So now with the intelligent core, we get access to our replica. It's replicated every 50 minutes. So we have full access to our data. We get all our reporting done from that. But what I think is going to be the game changer is the inclusion of Copilot to the database, embedded in the process. So what we're seeing, you know, and I think a lot of this AI stuff is in an earlier stage, but we're seeing big efficiency gains. For example, with Copilot, that's coming soon, we'll be able to quote from a PDF. Just feed it a PDF and then get a full quote out of it. You could get, for example, application of payments for an agency. You get 1,000 payments. You need to apply to policies. Well, the Copilot could go in and read the document, whatever format it would be, and just go ahead and do the application of payments. So those gains is why we do this.
And Jen.
Yeah. So I'm guessing probably a lot of you in the room know how difficult it is to get data out of a legacy mainframe system, right? So all of your effort is around trying to go find the data and then trying to figure out what the heck it actually means, right? So the embedded BI actually allows us to shift our focus from trying to collect the data and make sense of what all of the codes might mean to analyzing the data so that you can position that data to act on it and make decisions on the data that's there. So in terms of Gen AI, this is actually a really interesting time for us. So, you know, insurance companies, like Raymond said, we're maybe a little bit behind on the AI, Gen AI curve. And I would be lying if I said that my colleagues were as excited about it as I was. However, just very recently, they attended a session and they started to hear and see what the capabilities were within the tool. And I actually got text messages from them during the sessions to say, hey, Jen, has your team actually investigated anything that Copilot can do? And I said, well, you know, if you can help me with a corporate policy on AI, we'd be happy to kind of dive right into it, right? And coming back, some of my colleagues as well who run the customer experience organization, she came back and her eyes were wide open and she said, this is really going to shorten the training curve. Because when you can go into the system and you can interrogate the system with a prompt to say, you know, Ray's calling in to make a claim, summarize everything that I know about Ray. And it provides the information right there on the screen. And even though that the screens are easier to navigate and they're not green screens, it provides a summarized information of everything we know about Raymond right at fingertips. Or the ability to say, hey, I want you to actually go and change the address for Denise in the system. This is her new address, and to actually have the system be able to go and execute that command. I think I say this a lot with my colleagues. You know, 130-year-old insurance company. I can't overstate that. They're scared of AI. And they were scared of implementing a new platform. And what we actually needed to do was show them. Right, so the ability for them to actually see it in action with what it could do, their eyes were wide open, and actually I think I probably am needing to pull them back a little bit so that we can stay focused on our launch.
Yeah, I think one of the things, before we get into the topic of innovation now, is really from an optimization standpoint, your point, Raymond, is that you're seeing efficiencies. It's really a productivity and an efficiency. And I think what some people fail to understand is that is great, but how does that relate to real business value? You pointed out from the standpoint of talent, bringing on new talent, getting them trained up, et cetera, but it also helps drive down the operational expenses and costs, which then ultimately can help improve your pricing, which then can improve your competitive positioning. I mean, it's a full circle kind of moment. Would you guys agree?
It is a cascading impact.
And you see, for example, we're able to quote more business.
Yep.
We're able to dedicate our efforts in more strategic ways, finding new clients and such. And part of the big benefits of all of this is I'm seeing the closing of the gap between the business and the IT functions in the company. You know, having access to all these reports, being able for the business user to manipulate the Power BI and just get the data any each way you want, it's really closing the gap and a lot of the misunderstanding between the business side and the IT side. So it's a trend I see, and at some point I don't think there'll be a divide between IT and business users using these technologies.
So with transformation, kind of the foundations put in place, it really positions you guys to think into the future. What are you going to innovate? What are new market opportunities that have been held back in the past? So Jen, maybe you want to kind of start with that.
Yeah, so I can start with that question. So, to be fair, we are just in, the final stages of our implementation. We're going live.
But I know you have ideas.
Yeah, we're going live on June 30th, and things are going swimmingly, which is why I'm able to be here. But a lot of times in the past, we've had to say no to things because of our technology. And no to opportunities. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, right? So looking at the technology, the more scalable infrastructure, the efficiency of the system, that's really going to enable us to say yes to opportunities we previously would have said no to. In addition, we know that there's a wide range of possibilities and things that we can attempt to do now that we have the technology to support it. So really we are most excited about not having technology be a constraint for us anymore.
And Raymond?
In our case, part of our initiatives align with Majesco's roadmap in a way. Our areas of focus on the underwriting part, and specifically on the commercial underwriting part, is to be able to be more efficient quoting business. We get a lot of business, we're not able to quote everything. So if we're able to shave up 10 minutes of an underwriter's time quoting and just having the quote ready for revision, that for us is going to be a game changer. The technology is coming to be able to do that. Personal lines could benefit from that as well. The other big efficiency I see is on the billing part, on the accounting departments, application of payments, commission payments, disbursement. I think that in the next year or two should be fully automated. So it ends up being better customer service and more efficiency with regards to our company. So those are our two main areas of focus. I see a lot of benefit in claims. And being in a catastrophe-prone area, just having the automatic FNOLs, and it's a huge advantage.
Yeah, Ray, actually, you raise a good point, and if you don't mind, Denise.
No, go ahead.
So the automation in the billing area is significant. So I know in insurance, the application of premium is typically a nightmare for most carriers. So the changes that we're seeing in the actual billing space are just monumental. And what this is doing is we can process the same amount of business with probably 25% of the resources that we have today, which will then enable us to, my CEO is really famous for saying, let's deploy technology to the process so we can deploy our people to the customer. So we can really start to move our business model from being reactive, trying to chase down why doesn't this premium match what I was expecting, to being more proactive. So for example, hey, the ability to analyze the premium that came in and reach out to a customer and say, hey, I noticed some people dropped off the bill, or being able to deploy our people to be analytic and proactive and build out and help to organically grow the business is really a key aspect here too.
Yeah. One of the things, Raymond, you talked about, I'm going to kind of jump a little bit here, is it really required some leadership, and leadership from the top down. Jen, you kind of talked about that. And we've talked a little bit about this whole concept of change management. This is more than just putting in a new technology solution. This is really fundamentally changing the operating model and how you're going to do business. So talk about how you guys kind of approach that each, and the challenges with that, but also, how you've brought people along. Raymond?
It is human nature to resist change, and it's something you expect. So there's a psychology part that we put on to try to make these changes. Obviously, the first choice is to be persuasive, sell the idea, get people excited about it, and very importantly, try to find a champion within each area you're working on, so that person can transmit the excitement for the project, the urgency, and the need for change. But unfortunately, there comes a point where there's going to be people who don't want the change, never wanted the change, and they're going to drag their feet. So, at that part, that's where you need validation from the top leadership and sub-authority to be able to effectuate the change and have people aligned. But that's the second part of it, which is not it's not the better one, but it is difficult conversations. One needs to have, but importantly, top leadership cannot get divorced from these processes. They have to be at least informed, and they have to have your back when a lot of these tough decisions are made.
Yeah. So from a change management perspective, right out of the gate, we had a dedicated change management team to address even as we were starting our journey, because it's interesting to think about, but even the people on the program team were going through a change curve, right? So, we had dedicated resources that were on this program, and we seeded the program with people that had been at the company for, some of them, up to 35 years. And members of the program team were going through their own change curve. So sometimes when we think about change management, we think about the ultimate end users and needing to assess them and identify, are they the resistors, are they the early adopters, what's their training needs going to be. But actually, our change management program started on day one. And that has been really important, along with the leadership engagement. So the executive sponsor is our CEO with the president of the company. We meet with them on a biweekly basis, and we make sure we have really tight alignment there to make sure that we've got the directive. Like Ray said, it's very important that the entire organization is hearing the same message, and it's not some crazy, what is Jen King talking about now, going through people's heads. So change management was really critically important. The alignment of leadership, critically important. And at the same time, balancing your approach on change management. So I can talk about this now because we're really close to our launch date. When we go live, we'll be going live with a new business approach. We are intending to convert our entire book of business off the legacy platforms. But the tail on that is probably about a 3-year effort. So while we're communicating out how exciting this is to be implementing our new platform, we also have to be cognizant of some people's roles aren't going to change for 2 or 3 years, and how do we make sure that they don't run out the door screaming? So the change management effort is not only getting people excited and open to the new platform, but it's also about making people are sure and they understand what their path looks like over the next few years, and having sometimes difficult conversations about, Ray, you're really great and I need you to stick it out till the bitter end on the legacy platform.
In our case, and a year and a half down the road, I would say 95% of the detractors, they see the benefit, they see the efficiencies, and they agree that it was really the right thing to do. There's a 5% that unfortunately they never got on board, and eventually they left the company. So some people they don't want the change, but it's the right thing to do, and everyone sees the benefit now.
So you guys have obviously accomplished a lot, to date with your transformation, but these projects are not easy. They're tough, they're hard, and part of that is really having a partnership approach internally between your business units and IT, but also with your partner, in the case of Majesco. Picking the right partner can be a risky choice. What criteria would you suggest to people when you're looking at it, and to be realistic walking into it, that you're going to have ups and downs, but it's about the partnership, staying focused at getting things accomplished.
Yeah, I can start with that. So, culture is very important for us at our company. And it's not just internal culture, it's the culture of the vendors that we interact with. So first and foremost, we wanted to make sure that we were selecting a vendor that was going to be a good culture fit for us. We wanted to, we started our search with, I think we had 20 vendors when we started our search. And culture was one of the number one criteria that we used to make our final decision. And so when we were selecting our partner, it was also really important that we be honest about who we are, right? We've never done this before. We don't know what we're doing. I've hired a team of project managers that have great experience in worlds outside of policy admin implementation, but they've never implemented an insurance system at a carrier that's 133 years old. And at the same time, my business people that have come to be part of the team, they've never worked on a technology project before. So it was really important that we were honest and transparent about who we are and where we knew we were going to struggle. And one of the places that we knew we were going to struggle was with this change, the change of our process. And so we really were very honest, and we said, we need you to challenge us at every turn. If it sounds like we're trying to drink that old wine out of a new bottle, we need you to raise your hand and not be afraid to say, hey, Boston Mutual, this sounds legacy. Could you explain to me why you're trying to do this? And first of all, Majesco has been a great partner in challenging us. 9 times out of 10, we're just clinging on to something old because it's comfortable in what we know. So when we were selecting a partner, culture was number one important, being transparent about who we are and making sure we were on the same page so they knew what they were getting into. We're not easy. And then number 3, it was really about the platform and being able to make sure that we weren't going to have to bolt a bunch of systems together. We really wanted an end-to-end solution. And because we were looking for an end-to-end solution, we were willing to sacrifice on some of the things related to maybe our process or some other bits. So that was kind of what we were looking at.
And Raymond, what about you guys?
In our case, we're already a Majesco client. We had the commercial policy on premise the past 15, 20 years. And we looked around, we saw a couple of core providers. At the end of the day, we really liked the Majesco claims and billing solution, and we also wanted a suite with one company. We didn't want to have different solutions with different companies. So a big important part of it as well was the Majesco team implemented the system. It wasn't a third-party consultant. So us being a smaller company with not many IT resources on hand, they kind of took us by the hand. We did a proper blueprint, proper implementation. We were very agile as clients, getting back and closing the loop. So it worked out excellent, and I think it's a great partnership. A big important key point here is, and I mentioned the blueprint. Whenever you do an implementation, spend the time on the blueprint, and have the people that need to make the decisions at blueprint, because that will bite you at the end. And it's very tedious. It's hard work, doing 3 months of going by each line, saying yes, no, this, that. It's very tedious. But at the end, if you don't pay attention to the blueprint part, it's gonna get you at the end. So.
Okay. So, lessons learned. What would you give as advice to those that are going to be starting a journey of either selecting or implementation? And if they haven't selected anything and haven't started the journey, why should they start now? Raymond.
Yeah, go ahead. The first, no customizations. Did I say that? All right. Don't do it. Don't go down that path. It's very difficult. I think at the end of the day, and I said this before, we made all this investment and put all this effort to have a technological foundation to take advantage of a lot of the stuff we're seeing out on the floor. The legacy system wasn't connected with any of these. So at this point, we made the investment on it, and it's to take advantage. And I see a lot of benefit on the agents, Copilot, and doing all that efficiency, and that's what we can foresee right now. In 5 years, I don't know what else is going to be out there, but we feel future-proof in the sense that we have the technology in place.
Jen?
Yeah. So a few pieces of advice. First, start with the end in mind. Know who you want to be, right? Know where you're going, what's your goal, what's your vision, but be flexible in the path that you take to get there, right? So be willing to flex a little bit and make changes along the way, but have your North Star. Where are you going? Secondly, we use an agile approach, so don't try and over-engineer what your first release looks like. Keep it simple, identify what's going to create some value, implement it, because the confidence that you get upon going live is like what Ray just said. People think they need this long list of things, but you put them in production and all of a sudden the things that they thought they needed, they don't need anymore because they're willing to start making changes and adapting. So go agile, start small. Getting something into production is one of the most important things you can be doing. Get that leadership alignment, get that leadership champions out there so that people are hearing the same consistent messages across the board, across the organization. And then last but not least, do not forget the people. The tech, it's not plug and play. We're not unplugging our 50-year-old system and plugging in our brand new state-of-the-art system. It's about the people. So make sure that you bring the people along for the journey. You're clear and transparent, even when the messaging sometimes needs to be hard.
So final question, what's next and what's getting you guys excited, as you look to the future on this new platform? Raymond.
Well, first, what we're seeing out there, we're seeing a bunch of new technology, a bunch of new tools, what's coming down the stream from Majesco. But really for me, the excitement is we've been going to conferences for the past 3 years hearing about AI. And I couldn't know what it was. What does it do? Exactly what's AI? So finally we're seeing the results of that in small efficiencies, but those small efficiencies add up. So at some point, as in the payment application, as in the quotes just from PDF or from an email from a producer, just be able to ingest in the system, get a quote. Those are the smaller things, but if you add up the time efficiency save, it's huge. So I'm excited about that.
Jen?
Yep, so I'm really excited about 3 things. So we're going live, so providing that stable foundation that enables us to grow. That is incredibly exciting. The conversion of our legacy book of business onto the platform is the next most exciting thing, although it probably does keep me up a little bit at night as I hear of some of the challenges other carriers have come across, but I do tell my team we can do hard things and we will do this thing as well. And then last but not least, it's the culture transformation at our company and the shifting from being a reactive, not necessarily always customer-focused organization to proactive, customer-centric organization that can really take us to the next level.
All right, well, I don't have any questions here, and we're at about 2 minutes, so instead of trying to go right up to the end, I'm going to thank both Jen and Raymond, and I would encourage you, feel free to stop by our booth or visit with us. We'll go to the back of the room so we don't interrupt the next session. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.